In this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable. Fanboys, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. That is no more truer than in this week's ridiculous episode where both Koichi and, believe it or not, the return of Hazamada actually go on this crazy adventure and they get to meet their favorite manga artist, Rohan. This is an episode that, honestly, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it justice for just how extremely weird it is. This is definitely one of those anime episodes you have to see for yourself, because me explaining what Rohan's abilities are, frankly, is just going to sound really foreign to you, very alien and very strange. But what I really loved about this episode, again, is that it tries to trick the viewer a little bit. If you guys remember a couple of episodes ago, we had that one with Antonio Trendy. He was a character who, at first, seemed like he was going to be a really evil villain, and by the end of the episode, he turns out being like the nicest guy that you've ever seen. And then in this episode, we have the exact opposite. We have Rohan Kishibe, who is this famous manga artist who seems like the nicest guy in the world. He seems like he just wants to be friends with everybody and share his amazing artwork with everyone. But he has darker plans. The reason he's so renowned and why his manga is so appreciated is because he draws all of his stories from real-life inspiration. And that's extremely true in this episode as he reveals his stand powers, which go by the name of Heaven's Door. What I think is really interesting about this is because they kept the name Heaven's Door. Usually in the JoJo series, due to copyright reasons, they always tend to change the name of the stands or even the stand users if they have some sort of connection to like a famous song in pop culture. As we all know, a lot of the villains and their abilities in the series are named after famous songs and musicians. But they're going to keep Heaven's Door here. What does Heaven's Door do exactly? Well, it looks like that Rohan actually has the ability to transmute people, that is to say he can transform them into living books. And he can literally look up your very biology, how old you are, where you were born, where you were going, and what you have already done. He literally transforms people into books. And this really doesn't sound all that freaky until you see the actual imagery in this episode, because when he uses these abilities on both Koichi and Hazamada, their faces literally open up like a book, and you can see the individual pages within, revealing all of their information. It's frankly kind of nightmare-inducing and one of the creepiest things that I've actually seen from the entire series. And as if that's not enough, not only can he do this to someone's body, but he can actually manipulate it in a really interesting way. He can actually take a pen, write something down inside of them, and it'll actually become true. Such as when he opens up Koichi's body, he actually writes this little note that says, "Do not hurt Rohan." And because of that, that means Koichi can no longer actually defend himself against this guy, nor can he actually attack him. He has complete control over his entire physical being, and something about that is just damn disturbing. And it's also one of those episodes that goes by in like the blink of an eye. From the first half of the episode, you're reintroduced to Hazamada, who strangely enough is just best friends with Koichi at this point. It also looks like they've gone through a little bit of a character design change with him. They've made him look a lot shorter, very similar to Koichi, probably to try and put him on the same level. Also, it's a great way to sort of show that these guys are two big manga fans, and they are very similar in many senses, and they're about to go through this nightmare together. It's pretty damned awesome. But it's pretty clear that Rohan has some sort of other, like, plan up his sleeve. They haven't revealed what that is quite yet, but he doesn't seem like he wants Koichi to get involved, and he actually learns a lot about Koichi and all of the adventures that he's been on in the first half of the series, simply by looking at his body as a book. And like I said, it doesn't just extend to the fact that he can literally open up someone's face like a book, but certain parts of their body can be manipulated. He can write in different sorts of messages and sort of maybe even alter some of the previous events in their life, which makes his stand one of the craziest that I've seen from the entire series, and without a doubt, one of the most creative from the entire series. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Diamond is Unbreakable? This series is really running the gamut for weird, but I have to give it some credit. It's one of the most creative stories that I have ever seen. A lot of the times in anime, things can get really stilted, especially when it's an action-oriented series. The characters are always doing the same things. punching, using swords, firing beams like something in Dragon Ball Z. But this is a series which takes the concepts of paranormal superpowers and really turns it on its head and does something really new and interesting with it. And that's what this whole episode is all about right here. It also just happened to be a really creepy episode. A lot of that having to do with the fact that Rohan himself is just a complete creep. This guy's really disturbing, especially the fact that he takes all of his stories from real-life experiences, and in a way, he sets up those experiences. Like, there's a scene earlier in the episode where he notices that Koichi is about to be bitten by this spider. So what does he do? He grabs the spider, he brings it over, and he goes through this whole explanation. He's like, this is exactly how I write my manga. From real-life experiences, you have to see everything, the outside and the inside. He then proceeds to basically just fillet open this spider right in front of them in a really disturbing and fucked up scene, which apparently is going to be very useful to him much later on. This should have been the very first warning for them to get the hell out of this house, and I love that as soon as this scene is done, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go get some tea and cookies for you guys. Koichi's like, something's not right here, maybe we should leave. But Hazamada decides that they're going to stick around simply because he happens to be the author of their favorite manga series. Honestly, anybody in their right mind who saw something like this would have gotten the hell out of there. I guess that maybe they were a little more confident with the fact that they had stand powers themselves, but they had no idea what this guy was truly capable of, nor the fact that he actually had stand powers in the first place. And I still don't even really know what his motive is going to be quite yet, because he's very different from the other characters that we've seen in the series thus far, especially because we don't know his full backstory. He might be kind of similar to the other characters we saw earlier on who were trying to go after the bow and arrow, but I don't really see that from the character of Rohan. In fact, I kind of see him as almost becoming like an ally at some point in the future. His abilities are unique enough that they could be really useful for Josuke and all of his friends in the future, and it is a inevitability that they are going to meet very soon. At the very end of the episode, there's a really nice cliffhanger where Josuke and Okuyasu show up, and they notice that Koichi is returning to Rohan's house. Why that is still a complete mystery. It might have something to do with the fact that Rohan actually removed a page from Koichi's body, which just so happened to be on his face. So it's going to have some crucial information in there. Why he's using Koichi, however, I have no idea. If there's one thing I've learned from watching this series, is that Koichi has had the worst luck out of any character that I've seen from the entire show. And at this point, they might as well make him the main character, as he's been the star of arguably the best episodes of the series, and he's just brimming with so much personality. And I still love the character growth from him, because at the beginning, he was such a coward character. Now, at this point, he's practically the main character of the series, way more sure of himself, but still incredibly vulnerable and very relatable, especially to a lot of younger viewers who check out this show. Although, if you are a younger viewer for Diamond is Unbreakable, you're going to see some really fucked up shit. Just keep that in mind. There is some imagery in this episode that is going to haunt me forever. But still, it's incredibly inventive. It's done with some amazing animation. I love the color scheme of this show, especially how it can sort of switch on a dime. I've always loved that about the JoJo series, but it always manages to make the really intense moments seem all the more intense. Like, it's just, it really builds the atmosphere and the tension, which is definitely one of the best things about JoJo. The episode, however, is still not without its humor. That is probably the most important thing about this season of Diamond is Unbreakable, is that it's walking this really thin line between being, like, way too disturbing and being really funny all at the same time. Like, things are so over the top and crazy, you just can't help but want to laugh at some of the situations that these characters are getting themselves into, and that's what sort of draws in the viewer. You know, you can't look away. It's like a train wreck in slow motion, a beautiful train wreck. And that's what this episode was right here. I absolutely loved it. It was a pleasant surprise. Again, building on the fact that the side characters of the series are just as interesting as the main ones, and the overall story, which still hasn't even really seemed to kick in quite yet. You know, every other episode has basically just sort of been like the monster of the week style storytelling. So I can't wait to see when we get a more solid story that's going to jump in and they're going to start to follow that a little bit more. That being said, the show is still entertaining as hell and incredibly unpredictable, especially for those who actually haven't looked at the source material. I myself do not read the manga version, so every single time I sit down to watch a new episode, I know I'm about to see something that is going to blow my mind, and so far, the series has not disappointed on that so far. So, love this episode right here. I thought it was great. It's also going to be the start of a two-parter, so it definitely ends on a cliffhanger, so it's got me even more pumped up for next week's episode. So I'm going to give this one right here a 4 out of 5. I'm going to drop it down just a little bit, only for the fact that, honestly, even though all the stuff that was really memorable in this episode, it just, not that much happened. Like, there really wasn't that much progression, but everything that was here was entertaining as hell. It was really solid. The animation was very tight and extremely visceral, especially the scenes of Hazamada and Koichi having their faces opened up like a book. Just absolutely terrifying. So make sure to check it out, JoJo fans. You might see something you like. But you heard my thoughts about this week's episode. I want to hear from you guys. Make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Diamond is Unbreakable. What do you think of the brand new character of Rohan? Do you think he's going to end up being a big major villain for the series? Or might he end up turning into an ally like some of the other weird, creepy characters that we've seen in Diamond is Unbreakable? Do you think that Koichi is going to be able to escape from this situation unscathed, or is something even worse going to happen? And what do you want to see from the rest of Diamond is Unbreakable? Please tell me in the comments section below. You guys are kick-ass! Thank you for watching this review, I really appreciate it. If you would like to help support the channel, maybe you could comment on this video, share it with a friend, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be able to see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!